Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This evening, I'm going to be reacting to the myth of Rosie the Riveter on the Homefront playlist on the WW2 YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my previous reaction to the other videos based on the Homefront playlist, remember the playlist card is going to be at the top here. Just click on it and you'll be able to access them. If you want to check out the original video as well as WW2 YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Rosie the Riveter, the housewife turned defense worker. When her husband went to war, she answered the patriotic call and took up his job in the factories of America. She's a symbol not only of the patriotic devotion of the American Homefront, but also of female empowerment. But did she really exist?
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hey kids, 9 out of 10 doctors recommend joining the Time Ghost Army.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's
9 out of 10. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing.
wonderful, sir.
This is on the Homefront, a series of World War II in real time. I'm Anna Deinhardt. When America enters World War II, its government fears a labor shortage is on the horizon. So in April 1942, President Franklin D. Roosevelt establishes the War Manpower Commission. It doesn't have the power to make people sign up for work or employers to take them. Instead, it must work out in a way to inspire good Americans to answer the patriotic call and join effort on the home front.
That means like media exposés and well, you could say like the newspapers, the radio, the television, you know, and parades, singers, actors, you know, other form of artists. All of them are going to be utilized in the effort of mobilizing the people, you know, to contribute to the war effort, whether they go off to be enlisted or working in the factories.
Being a large pool of labor resources, women are obviously one of their main targets. It's not like women didn't already work. In fact, the percentage of women in work was steadily increasing.
But the work was not necessarily... I mean, yes, it is work, but, you know, the higher echelons of... How can I say this? Like men-orientated work, if I can say that. Like mining or manufacturing or these like lawyers or accountants or doctors. You know, this was still very much of a man's sphere of influence and employment, and women haven't really gotten into that point just yet. So yeah, during World War II, these types of opportunities were opened up far more, you know, speedily, because the men were off to battle in World War II in Europe, for instance. And yeah, you know, many of these spaces opened up for women to fill up those positions. And yeah, you know, I don't want to say that there were good things that came out of World War II, but yes, there were some positives in terms of women emancipation. Maybe not for all women, but it was a start. Yeah.
1890, 5% of women held paid jobs. By 1940, it was 28%. That's 12 million women workers, making up roughly 26% of the total labor force. But most working women only have jobs considered appropriate for their gender. For white women, that means being a teacher, a nurse, a social worker, or something in civil service. For Black and Hispanic women, it usually means being a domestic servant. And they are all overwhelmingly young and single. Once they get married, their lives in paid employment are usually over. Because the ideal American woman isn't an employee, she's a wife and a mother. In 1942, the Ladies' Home Journal conducts a survey among sailors and soldiers to find out what the ideal woman looks like. And here's what they found out. She is healthy and vital, maybe even a trifle plump. No languid beauties for these lads. She's devoted to home and children, although she can take part in at least one outdoor sport and likes a moderate amount of dancing.
This is so cringe. This is really just cringe. You know, what men want their ideal woman to be like. And yet the same question is not asked of women. You know, what is your ideal man? You know, they must be the ones to fit to the standards of these men. They must be the ones who must radically transform their lives to suit the whims of these men who want this particular type of women. Ugh. Anyways.
Business ability and braininess run a mighty poor second to a talent for cooking. A college education isn't necessary, and most young men would prefer not to have their wives work after marriage unless an emergency made it desirable. It's the job of the WMC to convince men and women alike that such an emergency is now. This they share with the domestic branch of the Office of War Information, established in June to centralize propaganda efforts, although the American government don't like to admit it's propaganda. Anyway, together the WMC and the OWI come up with a riveting campaign. The WMC organized nationwide publicity campaigns which are to be backed up by local recruitment drives. To support the nationwide campaign, the OWI organized special shows and celebrity announcements for radio.
Yeah, like I predicted, radio, TV, actors, singers, newspapers, you name it, they were using it for their propaganda.
They produce woman power short films, request magazines to run cover stories of women workers, and work with the War Advertising Council to insert their message into consumer marketing.
How do you like your job, Mrs. Stoner?
I love it.
Isn't this pretty hot for you, Miss Spillane?
Well, I hear it gets kind of hot around the kitchen stove, too.
I never thought of that.
Yes, and it gets pretty hot out there in the South Pacific.
The primary targets here are middle-class white housewives, or soon-to-be housewives. Poorer women or black or minority women don't figure that much in government-approved messaging. And how do campaign planners try to convince the housewives to take up work? First is the appeal of higher wages, equal to what men receive.
Are they really going to, get that equal pay? I highly doubt it.
Although the government does quickly caution that this promise shouldn't risk inflation or the idea of an easy war, obviously. So instead, the major appeal is to American women periodic duty. This can range from the positive to the negative. For example, a March 1943 campaign has the slogan, "The more women at work, the sooner we'll win." But supplementary reading materials then have quotes like, "Every idle machine may mean a dead soldier."
Wow.
The negative reinforcements goes even further than that. An OWI campaign directive states that women should be given the following message. Eventually, the neighbors are going to think it very strange if you're not working. They'll be working too. In fact, any strong, able-bodied woman who is not completely occupied with a job and a home is going to be considered a slacker just as much as the man who avoids the draft.
Culturally, or in the society of America during that time, women were told that your job, your space, your place is in the kitchen. It's in the house. It's taking care of the children. That's your responsibility. Now, because of this war, all of a sudden this has changed to say that you can't be in the house. You can't just stay idly by or be busy painting or going off to go and swim or having little women's get-togethers. You know, you need to be in the factories. You need to be working. If you don't work, then you're a slacker. I mean, how women are just being corralled to be told that you go this way, you go that way.
This tactic isn't without controversy, and many female government officials object to it. But the WMC and OWI press on. Appearing all around the US are poster captions like "Longing won't bring him back sooner, get a war job," and "The girl he left behind is still behind him."
Yeah, no, these adverts here, oh, they're crazy. They are crazy. Get a war job.
Hollywood movies like Swing Shift Maisie and Conquer the Clock help to normalize women having jobs. So do popular songs like The Lady at Lockheed and We're the Janes Who Make the Planes. One popular song goes, while other girls attend their favorite cocktail bar, sipping dry martinis, munching caviar, there's a girl who's really putting them to shame. Rosie is her name.
Yeah. Okay. Is she really putting them down to shame? I highly doubt it. I'm sure that those ladies who were having those dry martinis and cocktails are still having their dry martinis and cocktails. They don't really care about, some lady in the factories working. No.
It's called Rosie the Riveter, and it will inspire one of the most famous images of the war. On May 29, 1943, Memorial Day, the Saturday Evening Post runs a cover story illustrated by the famous Norman Rockwell. He depicts a muscular Rosie taking a lunch break while a huge rivet gun sits on her lap. A copy of Mein Kampf is at her feet. But this image of a tough Rosie is somewhat of an outlier. Because while advertisers are keen to recruit women to work, they are also keen to remind them that they are still women and should look and act the part. Take this August 1943 ad for lipstick. It's a reflection of the free democratic way of life that you have succeeded in keeping your femininity, even though you are doing a man's work. If a symbol were needed of this fine, independent spirit, of this courage and strength, I would choose a lipstick. A woman's lipstick is an instrument of personal morale that helps her to conceal heartbreak or sorrow, gives her self-confidence when it's badly needed, heightens her loveliness when she wants to look her loveliest. No lipstick, ours or anyone else's, will win the war. But it symbolizes one of the reasons why we are fighting. The precious fight of women to be feminine and lovely, under any circumstances.
I mean, can we just let women decide what they want to do? Why must it be newspapers and radio, television, and politicians and all these other people to decide what women should be doing in their workplaces, how they should conduct themselves, how they should dress, how they should do this and do that? Hey, just let them be. If they don't want to come to work with lipstick, they don't want to come to work with lipstick. If they don't want to, be seen as this feminine flower type of person, then they don't want to. They're here to do a job. They're not here to present themselves in some sort of way that you might accept it as pleasing. They're not here for you. They are here to work because you guys told them that they need to be working for the work effort. And now you're telling them extra things. They must dress this way. They must act this way. They must put on lipstick. They must do this and do that because they are still women. Yes, man.
So instead of Workwell's Rosie, another wartime image might better depict the ideal working women. J. Howard Miller's We Can Do It Girl. It features an attractive young woman rolling up her sleeves, ready to work. But even this isn't the standard Rosie you might think it is. For one, it's not a piece of government propaganda, but the creation of a single company, Westinghouse Electric. They've displayed it in-house for just 2 weeks to motivate already employed workers. So, a dramatic call to America's women it is not. And while Miller's Rosie is beautiful, she also looks tough. Something inconsistent with most depictions of women workers at the time. Because, as a writer reminds her fellow women in a guidebook for women war workers, you must admit, for it is a well-established fact that you are a vain creature. And all the factory jobs in the country, whatever their other compensations, would not appeal to you if you had to appear before your fellow workers wearing some simply horrid-looking thing. And magazines are keen to remind women workers that beauty on a production line is possible. In October 1943, the Women's Home Companion will even try to prove this by taking 4 women war workers to Hollywood to have them made up, outfitted, and photographed like models. Some factories even have beauty salons and makeup mirrors so their Rosies can touch up their glamour on the job. As a side note, between 1940 and 1945, retail cosmetic sales will have increased by 63%. But the question now is, did American women respond to the patriotic call? Did they put on lipstick and a hard hat and get to work?
I'm telling you, the rich women, those who are drinking their martinis and whatever alcohol, they're still drinking their alcohol. They're not in the factories working. Those women who have families, probably they're not in the factories working because they have to take care of their families. And of course, women of color, they're nowhere to be found here. So I don't know how many women actually participated in these factories and manufacturing the weapons and all these other manufacturing facilities and manufacturing base of America, whether it was really filled up with a lot of women participating. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, let's listen.
Well, by the end of the war, 19 million women will be working in America. That's
a lot, actually. That is actually a lot.
9% increase from the 12 million working in 1940, representing a 12% increase in the share of the total labor force. But there is a catch. When you factor in population growth and that already established trend of increasing female workers, the numbers of those responding to the trumpet's call is only somewhere between 2.7 to 3.5 million. And the vast majority of working women are not Rosies. They are much more likely to work as secretaries or clerks. If they do work in the war industries, they are in relatively low-skilled jobs like welding or being on the assembly line. Employers just aren't willing to train women in skilled work, especially as their employment will only be temporary. Because all the government campaigning for women war workers stress it that it is only for the duration.
How about after the war? Are you going to keep on working?
I should say not. When my husband comes back, I'm going to be busy at home.
Well, this job belongs to some soldier. And when he comes back, he can have it.
Oh, that's swell.
And sure enough, when the war begins to wrap up, American culture will again valorize the housewives and remind women that they should dutifully make way for the returning soldier. By 1950, the female share of the total labor force will have reverted back to the long-term trend of the pre-war days. So what can we make of Rosie the Riveter? Well, it seems like she was just a myth. She wasn't born out of an actual societal change, but rather a government campaign from the top. And it was a campaign that didn't lead to that many new women workers anyway, especially ones in the defense industry. Still, for the first time in American history, the ideal woman could be both beautiful and blue jeans wearing. She wasn't only a housewife, but also a worker whose labor provided for herself, her family, and her nation.
Oh, but here is a black lady. I thought they didn't allow black ladies to work in, far more sophisticated jobs instead of just taking care of children and being the nannies of these white families. So yeah, this is a bit different. It's a bit surprising.
And the Rosies as imagined by Rockwell and Miller will one day take on a life of their own, inspiring future generations to roll up their sleeves and show men they can do just as good a job as them. They might say even a better one. To see a video where I talk of how Germany had too few people playing doctor at the beginning of the war, click here. Join the Time Ghost Army to get more of me and the rest of the crew. Subscribe and don't forget to ring that bell. Jawohl!
Someone really enjoys their job there. Okay, guys, that is it with the myth of Rosie the Riveter on the Homefront playlist on the World War II YouTube channel. This was a government initiative to further galvanize the women population of the United States of America to contribute to the war effort by getting employed in these factories, getting employed in these military factories to manufacture these weapons, to manufacture all these other types of equipment that are required for the war. They were kept in a very controlled space, if I can say that. None of them could actually move forward in their career working in these factories, like we've just been told. So this was all just a gimmick to galvanize more of the population to contribute to the war effort. With these posters as well, yes, some of them do seem to be having this kind of positive attitude, showing women who are working and contributing to the war effort. But then there are some of them also have these undertones where it's now expecting women to be looking the part in these posters, to have these big muscles, or to be told in magazines that no, you should still wear on your makeup, your lipsticks, and you need to still look presentable in your outfits as you work in the factories. There are so many conflicting messages on whichever side, telling women how they should act, how they should be, or how they should dress, in these factories. And, also trying to make stories up in saying that, here are some women who are not working, who are just drinking alcohol, having parties, but the true heroes are those who are working in the factories and providing for the military. And that doesn't really work. Honestly, that doesn't work at all. Like I've said before, those who are rich, successful women, they're not going to waste their time going to a factory because a poster told them to, or a magazine told them to, or because famous people like on radio TV stars or radio stars or TV stars or movie stars told them that, we need your help with the war effort. Many women are just going to continue doing what they've always been doing, just like many men as well. Either they have employment already, they're secretariats, or they're staying at home taking care of their families, or they have the monetary affordability to enjoy their lives, in the cities or wherever else, drinking, having parties, doing as they've always been doing. It's not really going to shift that perception or that decision making of many people to say that because this poster is telling me I should go out and work in a factory, I'm going to do it. It's not going to be that simple. It's just not going to be that simple. And there is no clear incentive, for working in such factories, because you don't, like I said before, you don't rise up in the ranks. You're staying there as a floor worker, making these bombs, making these bullets, making these guns and everything else like that. But you can never become a part of management. You can never become a board member of a company. That's strictly prohibited for women. Your job is just to stay there in the factory lines and just do the work there. And then you still have to look feminine, or you have to look like Rosie the Riveter, with big muscles. You have to look the part of how a woman should be like in the American society. So it's just a lot of conflicting messages telling women what they should do, how they should do it, why they should do it, and if they don't, then there's some social repercussions going towards them. And yeah, that's really, it's just not right at all. It's not right at all. But from this entire situation, I could say like it was another building block or another step into women emancipation and economic emancipation in the United States of America, where from this it thus galvanizes a better future for women in America, and of course in time also for women of color. Yes, it will take time, but eventually they get to that point where women are fairly represented. They're able to take charge of their own destinies without the consent of men. They're able to work, they're able to provide for themselves, and in that far future, women have succeeded, and that's our present right now, our present day. The women of the United States of America have succeeded in making sure that they have almost everything that any man could have in the United States of America. They can vote, they can participate in the economy, they can participate in politics, they can become valued members of society as well and contribute to the economy, to the society, to the political apparatus of the state. And yes, it started long before World War II, but during World War II, this was just one of the blocks added to this present day that we have right now, if I can say it like that. So yeah, interesting video, very interesting video, and I guess that is it. Remember guys, if you want to check out the original video as well as World War II's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I'll see you guys next week. Okay, good night.